everybody and welcome to Creativity Time. My name is Tatiana. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator here in Australia. And today we're going to play with the ink smoosh technique. It's been a while since I've done it and I thought it's a good technique. Let's do it again. So we'll be using the Sea Turtles stamp set and I'll be showing you how I like to create the ink smoosh. What's so great about this technique, it's very organic, it's very free-flowing, and there's no right or wrong. So you can just go with the flow. So let's flip to the table and get started. Okay, so as I've already said, we're going to be using the Sea Turtles, and this is a reversible stamp set, but the main thing is it is also a, what do you call it? A photopolymer. And when the photopolymer stamps come, they come mounted on a thick piece of acetate, and then there's the thin one. Excuse me. So I use the thin one to cover the stamps now that they're mounted on my stamp case. And I keep these thick ones because they are perfect for ink smooshing technique. So I've got two of these. I've got this one from the Turtles, and then I've just pulled it out, another one from another stamp set. So I'm going to put that one there. And the camera is there. Anyway, and I've got a piece of Fluid 100. I recommend watercolor paper for this technique because you do get a lot of water and you want to use a paper that is able to absorb that water. The regular basic white or basic white thick will start peeling with too much water. And the colors I'm going to be using are Azure Afternoon, Tahitian Tide, and Coastal Cabana. Now some people like to stamp first, but I'm going to do the ink technique first because I'm not sure where I want my turtle or turtles yet. So I figured we'll smoosh first, trim, and then that. So I'm going to start, what color should I start with? Let's start with Coastal Cabana. So I'm going to take the Coastal Cabana ink pad and just, this one's getting dry, but I've smooshed it onto one piece of acetate right there. You can also use window sheet or anything from packaging. And then you need your Stampin' Spritzer. And I'm going to wet that ink. And so now I'm going to take the second sheet of acetate and I'm going to pick up some of that color and then I'm going to smoosh it down onto my Fluid 100. And so you have a bit of control of where this goes because you are placing it, but at the same time it's going to be different each time you do this. So it's controlled smooshing in some respects, but I really love how I'm getting that splash there. And I'm quite happy with that amount of Coastal Cabana, so I'm going to just wipe. I've just got a, what do we call a rag or a cloth that I use as a rag. So I've wiped both pieces of acetate and then I'm going to move on to the next color. Except I do want this one to dry so that they don't mix. So just to speed up the drying process, I'm going to use the heat tool. If you have time, I do recommend letting it air dry because it gives, I'm going to get some harsh lines here from the, not too bad, but air drying is always better. But we're not going to sit here and watch ink dry. There we go. Oh, there's a spot right there. Come on. There. Perfect. Okay, so I'm going to take my Tahitian Tide and do the exact same thing. Splush. And spray. Making sure I'm spraying the colour. And picking it up. And blonking it down. So kind of creating this fun seascape. This would look really good with the new orcas in the what's it called, September to December catalog. I just haven't had a chance to buy them yet. How cool does this look? more. See what I mean? You can just decide where it goes because you can see, and you can kind of move it around a bit. Isn't that really developing quite nicely? I think maybe we'll go back to Coastal Cabana and add a bit more here because then we're going to do the Azure Afternoon lower down. So give that all a wipe so that we don't get any cross transfer of colour, and I will dry that. Just to make sure it's all set. There, I'm going to grab the Coastal Cabana again. Don't need too much. And you could take the other acetone, the one that you acetate, and that you've been adding the colour to, and use that to pick up the rest of the colour instead of wiping it off. That's if you want to place it down. And I'll dry that again. And now for our final colour, the Azure Afternoon. It's still quite a juicy ink pad, so I'm going to only dab that in once. And this being a darker colour, oh, we've already got ink splats from that water. I don't know if you can see that. It's very fine. It's all good. It's all part of it. But this is a much darker colour, so if you wanted to lighten it, you would add more water. I'm going to just dab it and turn this around so that I'm only getting that edge. Wow, how cool does that look? Let's try to get a little bit more going up. Yeah, I am really pleased with that. So you can do as much or as little as you'd like. Just going to wipe all that down so that I don't get ink in places I don't want. Mind you, that's already happened. Got ink splatters on my ink pads, all over my desk. Let's flip this grid paper over. Oh, it's not that it's much cleaner on the other side. And let's just dry that so that we know that it's not going to Oh, I think my heat tool's just died. Okay, I won't be drying that, but I will now trim it down. So I think I'm going to start with an Azure Afternoon Co-Base. That'll look quite nice, and I'm going to go for a landscape card today. So for a landscape card, I'm going to score at 10.5. So, and then cut at 14.85. I get 2 card bases out of that. Fold and burnish that. And now we're going to trim this because obviously it's way too big. And if I'm a bit strategic in how I trim it, there's going to be strips that we can use in other projects. So instead of trimming all 4 sides, I would like it to be 13.35. So I'm going to trim that off, and I can use that for another project. And I will have to trim top and bottom here just so that I'm not, oh, mind you, yeah, we could do that. And this is going to be at 9 centimeters. There we go. Of course, you could have trimmed the watercolor paper down before ink smooshing, but I like to work with a larger surface and then bring in what I need. And I'm going to add a strip, let's say a 2 centimeter strip to the inside of the card. So I'm going to place that there. And how about a 2.5? So I can hold that there. Yeah, not quite. Come on, stay straight. There. So it's going to go on the, I'm going to use the bigger one. And my height of the insert will be 10 centimeters. Just trim off the top there. So these are bits I can use on another project. And this is going to go on the inside of the card. Which I like to pre-cut my inserts. I'm going to put it on the left-hand side. So I normally put things on the right or the bottom right, but for something different. Ooh, don't want glue on my lid. There we go. And we can add that to the inside of the card straight away. Do it straight away. I know I won't lose it on the craft mess. Okay, and now I'm going to white heat emboss the turtles. I'm going to start with, and because this is watercolor paper, I'm going to grab the stamparatus. You can just use any stamp positioning tool, but this means that I can ink it up a few times. I'm going to place it this way. Yes, I do want to keep, I might grab a clean piece of glue, otherwise it's a bit too distracting. There we go. And I'm going to place it this way just because otherwise my turtle, which is going to go on this edge, there we go. Now it's the correct positioning. So I'm going to grab, actually I'm not 100% happy with that position of the turtle. I want it a bit, let's lift that up. More like so, there. Okay, so that's where the turtle's going to go. And I'm using the second line, but before I start stamping that, I'm going to stamp, because this is a fantastic reversible stamp. I'm going to stamp, don't forget we're heat embossing the turtle, so I'm going to stamp some of these across first. And I think let's do a 0 afternoon, but stamped off. I'll just stamp that off here, and then stamp it right here. So it's very subtle, perhaps too subtle, but I'm going to rectify that and give my stamper clean, and I'm going to flip it over because it is a, what do we call them, reversible, and this ink pad's too juicy, so I'm just using the edge of my block because our blocks are nice and smooth around the edges. I'm just going to push some of that ink to the side, so most of the ink still remains on the ink pad and it eventually will flow through the pad again, but it allows me to ink up. Too scared to do it full strength. Don't want it to take over. Let's try full strength this time, but with the dots. Reverse that again. There. And there. So we've added some more texture. And I'm going to flip that. Although I had my turtle all lined up based on the grid here, so I'll keep that. Okay, that there, and I'm going to grab my embossing buddy. I'm going to give that a good rub because I don't want the embossing powder to stick to anywhere but to where my turtle is. And let's clear. Where's the white? Oh, I've already got it out of my desk. I'm going to prep the powder, and we'll need first some ink. So adding that to my stamp and then pressing. I got this nifty gadget, a slider, so I can press along. Now I know because it's watercolor paper, so it's textured and thicker, but I will need to repeat this a few times before it really adheres to the fluid 100. I'm starting to see it. You're not going to be able to see that, even if I try to catch the light. Correct light. So just going to trust the process. So this is why I'm using the Stamparatus. Starting to show. It's really taking a while. Don't know if my ink pad's not inky enough. Yep, I think that's enough. And now I'm going to take embossing powder. There we go. Definitely worked. You can see my turtle showing up now. Oops. I've got embossing powder flipping across the table. Not what I would like. Good thing I'm not going to use that plate again. More cleanup for me. My heat tool just died. It's back. It's got overheated. So just, there we go. The magic is starting to happen. You can see that. we go. Now, do we want a little turtle or, I know we're going to do something different. We will grab the little turtle and mount it so that we can get the textured side up. And I'm going to grab vellum. There. And I'm going to white heat emboss a little turtle in vellum. So again, the embossing buddy, this time I only need to stamp once. Dip into the white embossing powder. And that very quickly heated up. Oh, did I miss a spot? No. And we're going to place the itty bitty turtle. So we're going to fussy cut it out first, but we're going to place it next to its mama. So I don't think turtles stay around for their hatchlings. So it's a bit of a funny one to do, but you know, we humans do. We certainly do. And because the embossing is quite spread out, it's not going to really show too much of the adhesive. So normally vellum would show through the adhesive, but if we place it strategically where there's big bits of embossing powder, we're not really going to see it. But I like to add a little bit of height and dimension to my card. Otherwise, at the moment, it's very flat and 3D. Flat, not 3D. The opposite of 3D. I'm having a doozy, aren't I? Okay, so I'm going to flip little fella over and put one dimensional there and grab some little ones and put it on its flippers. Maybe one on its head. There we go. Move those. Do I like it there? More here. Think about, what do we think? Maybe more. Or even no, I like it down a bit. So just played around with where I potentially might, but that's given us some depth to the card. Isn't that getting sweet? Okay, let's stick the card front down onto our card base. There we go. And we need a sentiment. And I do love the happy birthday from here. Or should we do a congratulations? I think, what other, I don't know, indecisive. Friend, happy birthday. Ones that I've used, of course. friend happy birthday. I think so. And I should have stamped that before. It's okay. What I'm going to do is bring it over here and take the second plate. Use that, just make sure that that's the way I want it. Yep. I know I'm working upside down. I can flip it. Now I'm not working upside down. And I'm going to use 0 afternoon again. But this time we can stamp it a few times because we've got it mounted on our so we're going to be able to get a better imprint on the Fluid 100. One more, I think. And if you really wanted to be fancy, you could then go over with Versamark and clear embossing powder to clear emboss it, but I'm going to leave it. Let's close the ink pad. And there we have it. A ink smooshed card just for you. Let's flip. So there, I hope I've inspired you to try the ink smooshing technique. It's a really fun technique, maybe a little bit messy, but I mean, my desk is more messy from the heat embossing right now than it is from the ink smooshing. Anyway, next week we have already pre-recorded a Little Miss Picks because it's school holidays. We love to do our Little Miss Picks. However, we also like to have the flexibility and freedom to do whatever we feel like during the school holidays. So you'll catch us here with an episode. I hope you enjoy that. Bye for now.